To ask your questions, please raise your hand. Use the raise hand function in the upper right part of your screen, and also give us your affiliation, your name, and your media affiliation. And then Chairman Sumwalt will answer your questions. So I will turn it over to Chairman Sumwalt.
Thank you very much. Peter, I don't know. I see the slate up there. I don't see anything else. Can anybody even see me? I could not see you, Peter, while you were speaking. Does anybody see me? Laura, can you see me? Okay, now that
I can see you now.
Yeah, okay. I don't know.
I can see you.
Thanks. Yeah, okay, good. Anyway, hey, thank you for being here. Before I begin, I want to thank Kenny Bragg for being the investigator in charge on this tragic crash. I think the investigator in charge doesn't get enough credit, and as well as the entire investigative team. You know, the easiest thing for them to have done would have been to go to New Hampshire and say, hey, we've solved this crash. Here we had a motorcycle, we had a pickup truck driver that was under the influence of drugs, and he veered over into the opposite lane and killed a bunch of people. And certainly that's true. But that person, that driver, will probably never make that same mistake again for a number of reasons. And what our staff did is that they drilled down to look at the system, and they found that there were multiple failures at multiple levels of the system that is supposed to provide a safety net to protect us when we're out on our nation's roadways. And unfortunately, that safety net had multiple holes in it. As I go and look at, in the last hour, I've gone back and reread some of the findings. I've read all the findings, and let me just call out a few of the words, the salient words that were used in the findings. For example, substantial disregard for safety. That's how we referred to Westfield Transport. Egregious noncompliance with regulations. They took actions to conceal deceptive practices. Little regard for safety. This says a lot. And we're talking about the company that employed the driver. And I think it was fascinating that in the board meeting, one of my colleagues pointed out that Westfield didn't do request the driving record from the RMV until over an hour after the crash. And they were doing that so that they could have him added to their insurance policy, which obviously they would need. We found certainly gaps, multiple gaps, egregious gaps with the Massachusetts Registry of Motor Vehicles. We found that the federal regulator, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, certainly missed opportunities both before the crash, and we felt like they did not do enough after the crash. As a result of this crash, we've come out with 6 new safety recommendations that, if acted upon, will improve safety. And that's what we're in the business to do. We're not in the business of pointing fingers, laying blame, assigning fault. We're here to find out what happened so that we can make recommendations so these things don't happen again. So 6 new recommendations, and we reiterated 5 recommendations that we had previously issued. So with that, I'd be delighted to take questions from you. If you would kindly raise your hand electronically, raise your hand and I'll call on you. So raise your hand, and when I call on you, tell me who you are and your outlet. And actually, I can see in some cases what your outlet is. So Ryan Kath, hello.
Hey there, Chairman. I guess the first question I would have, and I heard you discuss this a little bit during the meeting earlier today, what was your reaction when you saw that image for the first time of all of the boxes of unprocessed notifications at the Registry of Motor Vehicles?
I was astounded by that. Granted, I do get into the docket and look at things ahead of time, but I had not seen that photograph. As you know, I specifically called up that photograph because you can say tens of thousands of documents. And, you know, what does that look like? I don't know what that looks like. I know what a ream of paper looks like. But when you put it in perspective by seeing all of those boxes, and that was 2 years before this crash. So they obviously knew they had a problem, but they just weren't addressing it. Clearly, the Massachusetts RMV dropped the ball. So, Laura, let me shut my door here because I didn't do what I was supposed to do and shut the door. So, thank you. Laura, go right ahead. You might be muted. There you go. There you go. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Do you think the board's recommendation that 49 states review how they share information about driving violations will go far enough to compel those driver's licensing agencies to take this part of their job seriously and also to stop those violations from falling?
Well, that's a great question. And what we saw in this particular case was egregious. But what was even more troubling was to see that other states had the same problem. Where we are going to push to get this message out that there are systemic issues that need to be corrected. And, you know, when you have a driver's license that is suspended in another state, you would not expect to be able to retain those driving privileges in your home state. But that's exactly what's happened here. We said that there were over 5,000 driver's licenses that the RMV of Massachusetts later suspended after doing their deep dive. So we're going to push, and I think that the media has a very important role in this as well, is people should be flabbergasted that this has been able to happen. And Laura, did you have a follow-up on that?
I did. There was a point in the presentation, I think it was from Dennis Collins, where he explained the number of drivers who were suspended. No, hold on. How many violations detected by Rhode Island and New Hampshire? Were those Massachusetts drivers, or were those drivers from states other than New Hampshire and Rhode Island?
Great question. I've got it right here. It's just a matter of finding it. So, so Rhode Island found more than 22,500 infractions and suspensions of Massachusetts drivers dating back to 2017. So I think it's important to point out that that's not all suspensions. That could be speeding tickets and things like that. And New Hampshire had not been processing notifications from other states as well. Ryan, I don't know if I think you and Laura still have your hands up, and I'm happy to continue to take questions from you, but if you don't have questions, there you go. That was, okay, so all right, so Michael Casey.
How's it going, Chairman? Just a quick question. You know, the driver was hauling this empty flatbed trailer, but that didn't really come up during the board meeting, and I didn't see in some of the preliminary. It was, you know, was it just assumed that when we talk about the pickup truck causing the crash that we're talking about the trailer, or was there any reason to believe that the trailer, because I think early indications were that the trailer whipped around and knocked some of the motorcyclists down, making it worse. Do we have any reason to know, like, if him hauling the trailer made things worse, or was that something you looked at?
Yeah, I'm going to let Kenny talk about that, but yes, from some of the illustrations, of course the trailer was pretty darn long, and so therefore it would have been crossing between the length of the pickup truck and the length of the trailer. You've got something very long that is going across and obstructing the lane of travel, the eastbound lane of travel, which then allowed or caused motorcyclists to collide with the trailer. But Kitty, I want you to please comment on that to make sure I got that fairly close.
Yeah, we use a number of things to determine the movement of the truck and the pickup and the trailer before the crash. Roadway evidence such as tire marks, witness statements all led us to believe that the pickup truck did not lose control due to anything to do with the trailer.
And Michael, was your further part of that trailer, further part of that question to ask? So Kenny answered the question that the trailer didn't lead to a loss of control. Did you have questions about maybe what I described as the length of the trailer might have contributed to the severity of the accident? You're probably on mute, maybe.
Are you asking me if, yeah, that I was asking if it contributed?
Yeah, so so if it contributed, so Kenny, the way I look at it, maybe I'm wrong here, but by the presentations that you all gave this morning, it looked like motorcycle number 8, I think, which was a fatality. Let's see, it was number 8, I think, according to the PowerPoint that I saw this morning, that motorcycle actually hit the trailer as the trailer was going across the travel lane. And is that correct, Kenny?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The motorcyclist actually, he did a hard brake. The bike fell to the roadway, and the trailer hit the motorcyclist while it was on the ground sliding.
So the trailer hit the motorcycle. Okay. All right. Thank you. I hope that answered your question. And Laura, I think thank you very much, Kenny. Laura, you're welcome to ask another question.
Thank you. Based on this investigation, what gap in the FMCS oversight troubles you the most? And how do the failures of the FMCSA found in this case compare to what the NTSB has found when it investigated crashes involving other vehicles that were regulated by the FMCSA?
Well, that's a good question. I think the which failures were most egregious. I mean, we feel like had their new entrant program been more robust, the FMCSA could have identified red flags, which would have prompted them to go and do a closer inspection of Westfield Transport before the crash. But then for me, what's particularly concerning is that after the crash, after all of these egregious disregards for safety had been pointed out, the FMCSA still did not issue an imminent hazard order. So, and the importance of that is that, first of all, if they were still in business, that would have put them out of business. Secondly, even if they had gone out of business, which they had, the fact that they had an imminent hazard order would have minimized the chances that any of the vehicles, drivers, or employees that were associated with Westfield that would have prevented them from going out and reincarnating as another motor carrier. So I think there were multiple things that are disturbing about the FMCSA. I mean, that's why they're there, is to help safeguard our roadways by ensuring that motor carriers are operating to acceptable levels of safety. And clearly, Westfield Transport was not operating with regard to safety. Barbara, I think I just saw your name pop up.
Thank you. I wanted to follow up on the question about the trailer because I've been told by truck drivers that the trailer was actually oversized for the truck. And that may be why he was having trouble maneuvering it and handling it throughout the day, that the truck was not big enough horsepower to manage that kind of trailer.
We did not, go ahead, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Just wondered if that showed up anyplace.
No, we did not find that that was an issue. I think that it's without a doubt, and you heard the board's deliberations, we even eliminated the word likely. That driver's inability to properly control that truck was because of his illegal drug use. And that's what the board, we eliminated the word likely because there was no doubt in our minds, the five of us, that that's what the control problem came from, not because of the size of a trailer. So I'll take one more question if there's one there. By the way, Laura, I did think that the Boston Globe did a really nice documentary. I thought that was really, really well done.
Thank you.
Yes, Peter.
If there's no more questions, one last call for questions. Looks like Michael Casey does have one.
Yeah, can you hear me? I'm getting thing mixed up, but if you can hear me, Chairman, yeah. So I mean, you talked about just the failure to kind of call out the company as an imminent hazard. I mean, it has, from what we know, closed down. But are you worried that the players in this? I mean, because as a preliminary report indicated, it had created tons of little companies with different names. Are you concerned that they are going to come back and could still pose a threat out there for motorists?
Well, I think that the fact that we have seen in the past, we've investigated crashes, and as Jennifer Hamady pointed out, my colleague Member Hamady pointed out, going back into the late 90s, there's been concern not just with the NTSB, but with the DOTIG of the possibility of reincarnated carriers. They go out of business because they're trying to skirt regulations or to avoid scrutiny from the various regulators. And so anytime we have an operator that is out there that is not complying with the safety regulations, we are concerned.
Great, thanks.
Thank you very much. And Peter, you might see that question down there. How soon will this recording be posted?
Yeah, so we will try to get this up this afternoon. It's just a matter of hand it off to our video guru, and he'll get it formatted up on our the NTSB YouTube site. So we hope to have that, and then the entire meeting today should be on our website either late this afternoon or more likely tomorrow, sometime tomorrow.
And so, Mike, yeah, okay, all right, and of course, Michael Casey is with the AP, but I didn't know if somebody was looking for the archived version for broadcast purposes, but it's 2:20 now, so I didn't know if anybody wanted it for broadcast purposes for the 5 o'clock news or something like that. Does anybody have any needs like that you would like to see if we can get it done expeditiously? Well, we'll
Chairman,
yeah, go ahead.
I'll put the request in to get it up as quickly as possible. And I have everybody's contact information. I will send out an email as soon as this is up on YouTube.
Okay.
Thanks, Peter. This was Ryan Catt. I was asking specifically just to get into a 5 o'clock newscast.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
You got it, Ryan.
All right. And listen, anything else before we sign off? Sorry, Peter, if I jumped in ahead of you and called basically the last question there, but anything else before we sign off? We've got all these little messages up here. I don't know what all that is. Let's see here. I cannot believe that Dave Shepardson would not ask a question. So that's just amazing. That's why I had to make sure he was really there.
I'm here. Thank you for having this, Mr. Chairman. No, I got on late, but no, my colleagues did a great job. Asking all the questions.
Very good. Well, thank you all very much. And, I think it was Laura that asked, or do we want, are we worried that this problem will not be corrected? And the more the more noise that the media can make about this, the more amplification it has, and the more attention gets on it. And this is just ridiculous. What happened not only in Massachusetts, but we found it in other states as well. So we've got to correct this loophole. Thank you all very much, Kenny Bragg. Again, thanks to you and Peter and Eric Weiss. Appreciate it. Be safe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Great.
Be safe. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for participating in today's media availability. Follow-up questions can be directed to NTSB Media Relations at ntsb.gov, or you can reach us at 202-314-6100. In addition, if you want to get me directly, you can get me at peter.knudson@ntsb.gov, or 202-631-6034. Just a reminder to follow us at NTSB_newsroom for the latest updates on NTSB activities. Thanks again, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
Peter, will you and Kenny and Eric, let's just let's get back on that call we had at 1:45. Let's see if we can just get back on that same link and we can debrief.
Sounds good.
Hey, thanks a million. Bye-bye. Bye.